Let's get to something a little lighter.
Uh-oh.
So Kathleen Kennedy extended for 3 years. Yeah. So this is something we'll switch right into because this is going to be a big topic of conversation.
I need you guys to break this down for me.
So here's what happened. So there was a lot of rumors and speculation that Kathleen Kennedy would not. Some said Feige was going to come on. Some people said that there were going to be new people that coming in to get the Lucasfilm job.
She's been a great producer forever.
Ever.
She's produced a shit ton of the most profitable movies of all
Jurassic
time.
Park,
including The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
And when George Lucas sold the company, I think either it was mandated or something like that he wanted installed as the head of Lucasfilm. He wanted Kathleen Kennedy because he trusts her with the vision of Star Wars. So then since then, obviously, it's been polarizing, particularly with The Last Jedi, the green light of Solo, the delays on various movies, that Kathleen Kennedy, maybe some of that magic's gone. I'm not necessarily of that opinion, but that's how it's very polarizing as to whether she should still be the head of Lucasfilm or not.
Her contract was ending after which film and now has been signed on.
I think it was after 9.
Years.
After episode 9 was when it was ending. So the thing was, and this is what I said. I said this about a year ago, and I stick to this, and I still stick to this today. I don't know whenever I said it, but I think that Kathleen Kennedy, like Mark said, a tremendous producer, one of the best producers of all time. I don't believe she should be the creative head of Lucasfilm. I think that there's a different because very similar before you walked in. So Kevin Feige and the Edgar Wright situation, right? So
yeah.
Edgar Wright was signed on to do Ant-Man, and before the MCU was the thing. So then, after the MCU kind of took off, Edgar Wright was still attached, and they clashed because Edgar Wright wanted to do an Edgar Wright movie, and they wanted him to do an MCU movie.
It wasn't jiving.
And it wasn't jiving. So, and as Edgar Wright should have done, he left because he wanted to make his movie and didn't want to make an MCU movie, and they got Peyton Reed to go ahead and make it to continue on this television show, which is ultimately what they wanted to do and ultimately why they've been so successful. I believe Star Wars should have had that narrative, and instead I think Kathleen Kennedy treating it like an Uber producer to where she's just saying, I'm going to get the right filmmaker to get this and do this and say, all right, JJ, make your vision. Do what you're going to do. Okay, that's not. You don't have to follow that, Ryan. Ryan, what do you want to do? Okay, I like the way you're talking. You're a great filmmaker. Do this. The fundamental filmmaking aspect, done. You're telling your story. Go. Okay, Colin Trevorrow, you're going to do yours. You're going to do yours. And there was no through line like what we wanted to do with the MCU, like to where you're going to, especially with the trilogy. You have to at least connect the trilogy, and that wasn't done. So creatively, I think they need a creative head. I think the 3-year contract doesn't necessarily mean that they can't do both.
I think what this means is one of two things. It's that they trust Kathleen Kennedy with the future of Star Wars, which is fine, or it means that sometimes when you sign somebody to a contract, it means that you have a handshake agreement that after this contract, you walk away or you even announce your retirement during the contract, so it never comes off like anybody at Disney is upset with Kathleen Kennedy, that it can be like, oh, she made the decision to step down, as opposed to, well, we didn't want to renew her contract. So it could be it could be both of those things, but I don't think it's that big of an issue, particularly even if you don't like Kathleen Kennedy, because Episode 9 is already happening the way it's happening. It's shooting right now. And then afterwards, you have this new trilogy with Benioff and Weiss that everybody at Disney and Lucasfilm still seems pretty high on.
It's what they're talking about the most.
I have no idea.
It's not a trilogy, it's a series of films.
Yeah, right. I have no idea what's going on with Rian Johnson's movie. I know that they're very excited about the Jon Favreau TV show. So those are two things that are going to careen for a while. And by the time all these things actually see the light of day, that 3 years will either be up or will be close to being up. So we'll see what happens then. Yeah. But I think that good for her. I think she's earned it.
Riley, what do you think?
I am very happy that she's back. I am. I think that she is a fantastic producer. Now, do I agree with you on the fact that I do see a little bit of just to kind of just throw everything against the wall and go, and not a lot of plan. And that's what I'm confused about, because I don't understand how you can have Rian Johnson do his movie off of J.J. Abrams. J.J. Abrams was the man, along with Lawrence Kasdan, that said, by the way, Luke vanished. And then Rian Johnson had to pick up that thread, and he did what he did. Now, you don't like it, you don't like it. I can't tell you. But he did what he needed to do. You can't just look at Luke and go, Luke Skywalker vanished and went over here and did not want to be in the fight. So Rian Johnson did what he needed to do in order to get that character back in. and I personally like it. So it's all going towards this. I think it's unfounded to yell at Kathleen Kennedy over this.
Well, I mean,
she let the filmmakers do their thing, which is what every filmmaker dreams.
Well, see,
yeah,
I can also say I feel like Kathleen Kennedy has made missteps in this tenure. I think a great producer does nothing better than learning from their mistakes. So I think that she probably realizes now, I hope she does, that you needed to get JJ and Rian Johnson into a room more often than not and have them hash out exactly where this is going. And if they creatively disagree, then you step in and say, we need to see this Force Awakens through line.
Yeah, my problem with what I think is, from what I hear, I think that Kathleen Kennedy really knows how to make movies. I don't really think she knows how to make Star Wars.
You know people.
I just don't know. That has nothing to do with it. I just think that she, when it comes to, and let me reiterate. I mean, clarify that particular statement. As far as making Star Wars movies, of course she knows how to make them. She produced Force Awakens and Last Jedi and Rogue One, and those are movies that she oversaw. I think in regards to how to tell the overall story, how to arc it all together of what the heart. I don't think she's a hardcore Star Wars fan. She doesn't have to be. She doesn't have to be.
I can see that.
But I just think, and it is.
Do you think that because she said that, or do you think that because that's the sense you get?
I think a little of both. She doesn't. She when she comes out to Celebration, she just reminds me of a lot of executives I worked with, and it's like when you hear her talk about Star Wars, like Kevin Feige again. And this is the thing when you compare. You have to compare everybody to Kevin Feige because he's just gold standard of what he's a fan overall. He's a Marvel fan. He's done these things. He's worked in the movies for a long time, and he shows up to all these different events. She shows up sometimes and to certain things. I was surprised that she didn't show up to the Rebels was one of the best storytelling elements to Star Wars in a long time, right? She wasn't at the series finale that they did this big premiere thing. I thought, and that rubbed me the wrong way. And does she have to be there? No. She oversees the films. But I just thought as the head of Lucasfilm that she might want to be to talk more about that narrative of overall of she's the Star Wars head and not just the films, right? But that's a smaller point. I think that with her is what I'd like to see. I think I'm okay, and I agree with Mark. I think you're right. I think that the fact that you get that will she oversee those 3 years? Who knows? But maybe that it is a good way for them to say, listen, we have respect for you, everything to ride out for the next year and a half, and then if you want to take off and do something else, great, and that's possible. But I also think it's possible, and something that I have championed and I'll still champion for. Bring in someone. It doesn't have to be Filoni, but it can be someone else. Bring in someone to take that weight off of her to connect all of it. She can make the movies and let them do the storytelling of overall. Yeah.
Here, this is where I think that she started to right the ship.
I'm listening. I have to type an email. I apologize. It's going to take 2 seconds.
Wait, while you're doing that, can you just quickly answer?
I got to cancel a haircut because I want to talk about this with you guys instead of leaving the show.
Really quickly, can you answer for me? Is that gum in your drink?
Yeah, I put gum in my drink for 2 reasons. One is that now nobody else is going to steal it, and 2, it gives it a little bit of a peppermint kick, which I really appreciate. Peppermint water will change your life.
Wild.
Better than
Sorry,
this
Riley, go ahead.
Oh yeah, how many did you have yesterday?
That's neither here nor there. It was Sunday.
I have pictures.
I'm not into it.
Here's what I think is that I think that there was a big upheaval around Trevorrow getting canned off the project, and I think that's why J.J. Abrams came back in. I think she talked to them and said, look, Force Awakens did what it did. I think J.J. knows his Star Wars, loves his Star Wars, is a fan of Star Wars, and that we're going to see maybe that writing of it with Episode 9, because I think Episode 9, if it's done right and he sticks the landing, people can look at Episode 8 and go, okay, and now we have a trilogy.
Right.
And now it all comes together. Could not. This is just my opinion, speculation. Maybe he ropes it in and gets a little feedback from Rian Johnson. This is what I've been doing. It's so hard for me to believe that $1 billion franchise, they don't have meetings together. And that the narrative right now is that, they're all doing is just whatever they want and Kathleen Kennedy doesn't care. I call bullshit. I don't see that. I cannot see how can $1 billion franchise just go, no, we don't care. Rian Johnson did whatever he wants. JJ, come on in.
I can tell you about 90% certainty that is exactly what's happening.
It's just, it did, but all right.
Yeah.
That's fine.
We tell you that's definitely what's happening. And I think that's the reason why there's been so much disconnect. I think
So,
there's
and
been
then
so much
that's why my point
I think
that
that's
they're
why
coming
Solo.
back.
I think that's why Solo, because it's Star Wars, man. Of course they're going to come back. That's why Solo fell apart.
Thank you.
That is why the Force Awakens almost fell apart. Rogue One had a lot of issues.
Force Awakens almost fell apart.
There's a lot of stuff that happened there's a lot of stuff that happened all over these movies that because they're not, it's not cohesive right now. It's not, and I'm not saying it can't be. It can. And hopefully that there's always okay with bringing in new members of teams to help out.
I think honestly, they just did too much, too fast, too soon. What Iger said, and I'm a Star Wars fan, so I'm as hypocritical as they come because I will line up to see every Star Wars movie that comes out. But once a year, I think was a little more ambitious than they thought it
They're still
was.
going to do once a year.
I think it's too much if you want to have the same impact with every movie.
Yeah, I'm not.
I
with you.
want
I'm not with you on
episodic
that.
movies 2 times a year, and then occasionally you have another movie.
Yeah, I think Marvel's proven that you can do one,
But Marvel,
one or two a year.
they're all building off each other.
That's what I'm saying. Is
But
that when,
I don't want that with Star Wars. I
do.
I don't just want like
Benioff and Weiss,
and then this happened.
Benioff and Weiss has a series of movies. You will want that.
But you don't want any other. You don't want any other standalones during that time.
I don't necessarily. The only standalone I really wanted that I thought would have been great was Obi-Wan. I don't need a Boba Fett movie. I don't need a Lando movie. I don't need a Chewbacca movie. I don't need a Jabba the Hutt movie. I don't need a Yoda movie. I don't need that shit. I need you to build that. I don't care about any of those standalones. If you built a new universe, Old Republic, if you did any of this stuff, and you started building up once a year, I think what Iger's comments have been taken out of context was what he said. I think he more or less meant May. And then December, and then May.
Certainly,
that fast, like once a year.
I think that's ludicrous unless you're doing what Marvel does, where I think they would have had a better chance if they make a movie in December and then the continuation of that story comes out in May.
Yeah.
I just, as a Star Wars fan, I like seeing it, and then I like watching it over and over again, and then I like the quiet and I like the build up again because Marvel, I can't fully explain why they've been so successful with movie after movie after movie every quarter, but I just don't think it works as well with Star Wars.
I just because you haven't had right now. You're right. I think it hasn't been. You haven't had a narrative that you would get excited every year. I think that if you had a narrative that you would get excited every year, you'd be okay with it. You just have to be attached to it. You're not attached to anything right now, so that's why you're saying that. Like you're excited about when Star Wars comes out because of course it's Star Wars.
I was attached to Force Awakens, but I was also happy that I got to wait 2 years.
Yeah, but if Episode 9 came out in May instead of Solo, right? A would have done a lot better. B, the excitement would have been. I'm not saying they should have done that. I'm not saying they should have done that. Wait, I'm just telling you that anything would have done better.
I would have gotten hot.
An Old Republic movie would have done better in May. Obi-Wan would have been better in May.
Yeah.
So we just saw Han Solo die in Force Awakens. The Han Solo that we had, regardless, the movie was fine. But it's not the movie. If you're gonna come out 6 months later, you gotta come out with something that's fire and hot and is a great Star Wars movie. You can't come out with just an okay or even a good Star Wars movie. You gotta kick someone's face in a May release.
Agreed.
Roxy,
I like when my face is kicked.
that's it. That's all you got.
Honestly, I love Star Wars. You
Yeah.
guys know I love Star Wars. There hasn't been something I've seen yet where I've been like, I thought that was trash. I like the prequels. I'm a massive Last Jedi fan.
Roxy.
Really like Star Wars. It's not. I don't feel like it's mine the way that you guys feel like it's yours. So I don't get as
Fired up.
Well, I just don't feel like I know where it should be going. I don't know shit. So like I just go and I watch and I enjoy. So this news to me is kind of like almost irrelevant.
Let me tell you something. You're in a very healthy headspace.
Thank you so much.
Can I get their rankings? I want to get the Brett and the Roxy rankings of the new movies that have come out. So the 4 movies that have come out, you got Force Awakens, Rogue One, Last Jedi, and Solo.
Did you see Solo yet?
Where do you rank them
No,
all?
you didn't see Solo
Did you see
yet.
any of those?
Did not see Solo yet.
You saw the other 3?
Yeah.
Sorry, that whole conversation was like the Peanuts parents talking to me.
But can I tell you something?
What?
Just like from one host to another, when we have nothing to say, we ask questions.
I had no questions to ask.
You know,
about
like
that.
You're still-
you
are you
keep
still
your
fired
headset
out?
on.
You're still-
I'm still pouting.
You keep your headset on so that the fans don't think you're bored and checked
but why
out.
do you-
and
I
you
just
ask
wanted to walk out of
questions.
the room. I was
Why
like,
though? But I mean, that's the
I
other
couldn't
thing.
even like it was just
Yeah,
like
but-
draining. Oh,
But,
But
I mean,
now we all know it was not it was very
I was
obvious.
still a little fired
It was
up.
not subtle.
but look, this is the. But again,
but
Brett,
then it
this
was
is-
like, ugh.
Yeah.
What are we talking? I don't know anything about this. I don't know how to add to it.
Yeah,
you want to go interview people in the hallway?
Yeah, I was gonna go interview Cobster for a little bit.
Yeah.
I wanted to escape because I really was like, shit, this is gonna be one of those things where people are like, why is Brett there? Because he doesn't know anything about this shit.
Uh-oh.
So
I don't think anybody would say. I mean, I could have spoken no words.
my
I
ears
wasn't
were sweating
contributing.
too.
Yeah.
and it
But
was.
the majority of people out there, even though Christian and I like to think we're in the majority as far as how obsessive Star Wars fans we are, we're not the majority of people. So it is interesting
Right.
Yeah,
to
I
hear
just
somebody
really like Star Wars.
have
I
a
really
take
like
on
it.
Star, which is why I want to know y'all's ranking of
Yeah.
the new movies. Like which ones do you think were your favorite to least favorite?
What do you got, Brett, other than Solo? Or you can rank it if you want.
Have you seen them all?
Last Jedi you saw.
No, I saw Last Jedi,
Force Awakens,
Force
and
Awakens,
Rogue One.
and Rogue. I really liked Rogue One because it
Okay.
was different, and it was that was not something that I was. Wasn't what
And
I
it tied back
expected.
into the
Yeah,
original.
it tied back in, and
Yeah.
it was really. I was like, wow, that
Yeah.
was one way to.
Do it.
Okay, mine goes Last Jedi, Rogue One, Force Awakens, Solo.
All right, I could do one a
think.
year.
Yeah.
I could do one a year.
That's what I'm saying.
Something about what I just said made you say that?
No, I mean I'm just thinking about like Christmas, and I still think that it does. There's a little bit of brand diminishment if it comes out every year at Christmas just for the sake of having a Star Wars movie. But I get so excited to go see Star Wars movies with my family during Christmas. It's like, oh, the family's getting back together, and we're all such big Star Wars fans that it's like an event in the Ellis household to go see the new Star Wars movie.
All of the Ellises are as Star Warsy as you are?
monster fans.
Really?
Yeah. See, that's
That's cool.
Raised on it for my mom and dad.
That's kinda-
Yeah,
that
we
was-
were raised on it too, actually.
Well, that was my earlier point. Is that I think that because, like you said, every 2 years right now, you're very excited about the trilogy that's out. You want to see
Right.
how it's going to wrap up, so you're invested in it, right? Like the thing is, to the other ones that have been in between, there hasn't been anything yet to get you invested in because 7, 8, 9 have through lines. It's got a full through line of what's going to happen.
Allegedly.
but I mean, at least it was set up through characters, right? Like,
yeah.
so you know who Rey is, you know who Kylo Ren, and so
Right.
now you want to see where that story is going to take
Broom
place,
Kid.
right? So all that stuff. So you're invested in these characters. The standalones are now just like. I was like, okay, well, it's Star Wars, so I'm excited. Well, what is it? Now, if there was in between in those every 2 years, there was something else that you were invested in,
Right.
then you're going to be pretty set up with one a year if you're invested. The goal, though, is to get that casual fan who likes Star Wars. How do you get them to love it? How do you get them to be as invested in it? And it's coming
Well, I
up
do
with new
feel like I
characters.
love Star
Okay.
Wars. I don't think it's fair to say I don't love Star Wars because I'm not pissed about things as
No,
often.
that's-
You know what I
that's
mean?
of
Like,
course
I've probably seen 4, 5, and 6 each. I don't know, 20 times. I've probably seen the prequels maybe 5 times each.
Mm-hmm.
Like I am more than a casual fan.
Okay, yeah, you're a fan.
But I just don't like. I don't know. There's something about like DC. I obsess about. I'm like,
Right.
that's wrong. That's not my Flash. That doesn't look like that. That shouldn't
You
be like
analyze DC, you watch Star Wars.
that. Yeah, I just watch
that's
Star
fair.
Wars and I like it.
And I'm
which
the
is
op-
why I think I
to
like
where-
The Last Jedi.
Right. To which I'm the opposite. You know, as far
Yeah.
as like watch,
Yeah.
I'm so invested in Star Wars. Obviously,
What's your ranking?
out of the new stuff or in general?
Yeah, out of the
the
four.
new stuff, I would go. I mean, it changes all the time. But right now, I would go Force Awakens, Rogue One, Last Jedi, Solo.
All right, I
Is
go
that you?
Force Awakens, Last Jedi, Rogue One, Solo.
Yeah,
But
right.
yeah, Force Awakens is definitely number one. The like Rogue One and Last Jedi.
They go back and forth.
Yeah, I think Last Jedi is probably a solid number 2.
I would
Safe.
go Last Jedi, Force Awakens, Rogue One, Solo.
Okay. Let's put the ranking out there to the fans.
And they have been doing that.
Yeah.
A lot of Rogue One in the number one
number one?
spot. I
Yeah,
would say
Interesting.
that is the one that I saw.
I
It
get
is
it.
different. It's
Yeah.
dark. It feels like an independent movie. It's got a kick-ass ending.
Yeah.
Yep.
And talk about somebody who is, I'm not saying all those people are casual fans because of course not, but somebody who is a casual fan, it's a great casual fan movie to go see because,
I agree with everything you're saying.
but I'm going to get taken to the wrong
No,
one.
unless you have kids and you're not prepared prepared for it because there's such a thing as being a casual fan where you just think you're going to see a Star Wars movie. My new buddy Bill Crawford, who I was overseas with from Pittsburgh, he was telling us he took his kids and they're like 9 and 10 or something to go see it, and they all left, including Bill. They all left like crying. They're like, nobody survived.
Yeah.